Hi friends, this is Crystal from Homemaking on the Homestead, and today I am bringing you another episode of Cooking for Two, where I share a week of dinner meals that I have made for my husband and I. All the recipes and the links to the recipes can be found in the description box below this video. I hope this helps give you some inspiration for your menu planning. So let's get cooking. On Sunday, I began dinner by making a batch of coleslaw. I've shared this before in some of the past videos, but I will have the recipe in the description box below. This is a quick recipe, and in the summertime, it's one of my husband's favorites, and I really enjoy it too. So I got the cabbage all cut up, mixed up the dressing, and poured that all together so that it could sit and let the flavors blend before we had dinner. As soon as I had that done, I threw some potatoes and eggs into my Instant Pot so that I could make potato salad. Again, I have a whole video on that, which I'll link below so that you can find it. I got that all the onions, pickles, eggs all chopped up, and then I mixed that up with the potatoes. So that was pretty much all the prep I had to do for this meal. I had purchased a rotisserie chicken the day before when I had been at Costco. So we had rotisserie chicken, we had potato salad, coleslaw, and that was Sunday's dinner. Oh, and leftover French bread. On Monday, I started by making some pickled vegetables. My daughter and I share a CSA box every week, and so I had some yellow cauliflower that I wanted to use up. So I thought, well, let me make some pickled vegetables. These are not fermented, they are just pickled. I also had some onions in my refrigerator. You can really use whatever vegetables that you want for this. And I threw those in, and I had some sweet Walla Walla sweet onions that I sliced up, and I put that in there too. Once I had got that all mixed together, I got my jars ready and filled up. I ended up being able to fill up a quart jar and a pint jar with my vegetables. After that was done, I mixed up some vinegar, sugar, and salt, and let that heat up until the sugar had dissolved. And then I just poured that over the vegetables. I usually at that point stick them in the refrigerator so that they can just kind of let the flavors blend for a day or two. And I ended up using them, you'll see, in another meal. But for now, that got those vegetables used up in a very yummy way. Then I had kale. We've been getting a lot of kale in our CSA box, and so it's always like, okay, how to use them. I love kale. It's a great dark green leafy vegetable. I find the easiest way to deal with it is to cut it off the stem. I know some people like to hold the stem and just kind of slide all the leaves off. I find that I don't have a 100% success rate with that, so I don't even bother doing it that way. I just cut it off. And then once I have all the leaves, I chop them into really fine little pieces. I find that this is great. They can be used in salads, they can be thrown into other dishes, and it'll stay fresh in the refrigerator this way for several days. So I served leftover rotisserie chicken. I put a batch of kale on each plate, topped it with some of the coleslaw, and we had the potato salad. And in the other plate that my husband's there, he had 3 pieces of sushi that we had left over from also our shopping trip. On Tuesday, we were ready for a break from chicken, so we threw some burgers onto the barbecue. It made for a very fast and easy dinner that night. I had a pretty busy day, so it was nice. As you can see there, we had burgers, chips, the last of the potato salad, coleslaw, and I even used the kale on our burgers instead of lettuce, and it tastes really good that way. And we topped it off with a piece of blackberry pie and ice cream for our dessert. On Wednesday, I still had a little bit of the chicken left, so I decided that I would make some chicken stock. I made it in my Instant Pot. It's really quick and easy to do it this way. I am planning to have a whole video here out shortly to show you how to do that. But there you can see I had my leftover chicken meat and, of course, the broth that I got out of that. I took my leftover chicken meat and I chopped it up into small bite-sized pieces. I pulled out one of my jars of pickled vegetables. I had some leftover coleslaw, some kale, and I grabbed some tortillas and I started making chicken wraps. And so I added some chicken to the tortilla, topped it with a little bit of ranch dressing, put some of the pickled vegetables on the top just for a little crunch factor, and then added a scoop of the coleslaw kale mix, and I wrapped that up. I ended up making them until I had run out of the chicken meat, and so I ended up with several of them. My hubby still had a burger that he hadn't finished from the night before, so he had that with a couple wraps. We had chips and dip. This is the most amazing dip. I just love this stuff. I get it from Costco. I highly recommend it if you are a Costco shopper. And we also had a couple pieces of the pie left over. And that was dinner. On Thursday, I was out of coleslaw, so I went ahead and made up a quick batch of coleslaw. And I was still working away on my extra kale that I had from that CSA box. So I did the same process that I showed you before and decided I would make a macaroni salad this time to go with our dinner. I used the same dressing recipe that I use for potato salad. I basically make it exactly like I make potato salad, other than using a couple cups of cooked macaroni in it. I served up the last of our chicken wraps with the macaroni salad and the coleslaw, and that made a pretty quick and easy dinner, plus the chips and dip in there too. On Friday, we decided to pull out of the freezer some salmon burgers. I've talked about these before. I get them at Costco, and they are so moist and so good. I love them. We cook them in different ways, but our favorite way to do them is on the grill. So we tossed 3 of them on the grill, and I added that to my macaroni salad, my coleslaw topped on some kale, chips, and that made for a super quick, super easy dinner. On Saturday, I decided to pull out a lot of leftovers. I had some kale. I still had a little macaroni salad. I had a little bit of coleslaw still left. I also pulled some things out of the freezer. I had an open bag of peas and carrots that I wanted to keep working on. I had 2 open bags of the little cubed hash browns. I guess I must have opened one and not realized that I already had one open. And so I wanted to figure out how I could use these. I also had an open bag of tater tots. Now, I did not end up using those, but I was just kind of going over everything I had. I had my chicken broth from when I had made it in the Instant Pot, and I pulled out a little bit of cheese that I needed to keep working on as well. And what I came up with was a little casserole. I dumped the potatoes into a 9x9 pan, and I topped them with some of the peas and carrots. I still had some left, but that's okay. I'll use those again. Little salt, pepper, and cheese on the top of that. I then cooked up a pound of hamburger. Salt and peppered that real well. Put a little garlic in there for flavor, and yep, threw some kale in there. Always look for ways to use my kale. I stirred that around and let it continue cooking until the kale had gotten nice and soft. I then threw in 2 tablespoons, or actually a 1/4 cup of flour, and mixed that up in there. Just enough to let the extra grease, any grease that was left, get absorbed by the flour. Then I added in 2 cups of chicken broth, and it's very gelled there because it was cold, but as you can see, it heats up and then it goes back to a liquid. I let that boil until it was nice and thick, and then I poured it over the top of the casserole. Kind of spread out the hamburger on the top of it. And finally topped it with a little bit of the cheese. I baked that in the oven at about 350 for 25-30 minutes until the cheese had melted. It was hot and bubbly, and I figured that the potatoes were all nice and cooked. This actually turned out to be delicious. My husband just loved it. He had a huge big serving of it. We finished the coleslaw, kale, and the macaroni salad for a yummy dinner. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, could you give it a like? Thumbs up, that really helps me. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like my content, would you please consider subscribing? That would mean a lot to me. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.